Clint Eastwood, dressed in a faded gray suit, entered the stage. Expecting an outstanding speech, the audience held their breath, but instead they saw a bit off. Eastwood took out a wooden chair that was empty and set it in the middle of the stage. I started conversing with it as though President Barack Obama were seated there. He even reprimanded the chair for interrupting. The whole hall went quiet in bewilderment and then started laughing. This nearly 12-minute ghost conversation turned into one of the most bizarre events in American politics. The media went crazy right away. The hashtag #Eastwooding went viral on Twitter. People snapped pictures of themselves mockingly speaking to empty chairs. Political analysts referred to it as the worst accident on TV. According to one reporter, Eastwood turned that tradition into a mediocre Broadway production. The drama continued. Rumors said that the organizers were unaware of the screenplay beforehand, thinking Eastwood would give a brief remark of support. However, when he started using their care, they couldn't believe it was Clint, the movie star, Eastwood. The unexpected kept coming. June 2025, when the Austrian newspaper Courier released an exclusive Hollywood was shook Clint Eastwood interview. It was a startling headline. Eastwood scornfully attacked Hollywood for focusing solely on remakes and sequels, vehemently asserting that the younger generation has lost sight of what cinema is. Numerous big newspapers republished the news once it went viral. The American people responded angrily, with many denouncing Trump as a despot and the haughty survival of the previous century. However, the plot twist only occurred a few hours later. Eastwood made a statement to end his quiet. "I didn't do that interview. It's all phony." Suddenly, the roles were reversed. The crowd was startled that they had just been exposed to a fake story, and Courier was humiliated. Journalist Elizabeth Sarita, who wrote the piece, was fired right away. She protected herself by asserting that she had just recycled and pieced together interviews from years earlier into the just-published paper. The controversy grew more intense after Sarita's history was examined. She belonged to the Hollywood HFPA. The International Press Association is well known for its clickbait headlines. She decided to target Eastwood because bullying him appeared to be easy. Some specialists even thought Sarita might have built Eastwood's interview using artificial intelligence AI or deepfake voice technology, producing it sounds more real. After the controversy, Eastwood made the decision to silence, but critics saw it as a slight on movies from the digital age. Journalism. According to The Guardian, this is not simply a fabrication. It demonstrates how journalism is failing and how truth is being compromised for clicks. But does Eastwood really despise actors in Hollywood? While the Courier incident on set was fictitious, he has been characterized as aloof, and one who harbors resentment for numerous individuals. One of Hollywood's toughest and most feared actors is Clint Eastwood. Directors. Eastwood was charged for forcing extras in Firefox 1982 to encounter actual fire and explosions rather than relying on stunt doubles or special effects. When the train fell into the tunnel, one person collapsed as a result of the fire's sudden flare-up and was taken to Earth's emergency department. The team didn't say anything. Nobody dared to object out of fear of losing their job. In the 2000s, he made the switch to directing significant films such as Mystic River and J. Edgar. Scandals broke out once more. Because Eastwood is renowned for permitting only 1 or 2 takes, actors have to be flawless on the first attempt. When Sean Penn was involved, this became a conflict of wills. Penn allegedly slammed the script into a table, according to a source, and asked Eastwood if he was an actor or just an actor device. Eastwood responded by icily rising to his feet. "You're an acting machine," he growled. "A nickel, leave this place immediately if you don't like it." The tension didn't stop there. Regarding Leonardo DiCaprio, J. Edgar, who is used to Scorsese's perfection, was taken aback by Eastwood's shortened and very rapid work approach. Leo was dissatisfied and once asked for a retake. With his arms folded, Eastwood uttered frigidly, "Go on. You're wasting my time." Leo was furious at this brutality that he almost gave up on the idea. He was regarded by the media as the silent ruler off the set, reticent and distant, yet prepared to transform the scenario into a battleground. And the harsh reality is that those very scandal-plagued movies brought him the Oscars and being a legend. Clint Eastwood, at 94, went back to a director's chair with 2024's Second Juror, a movie that was widely marketed as the last piece of work he did in his more than half-century-long career. However, Warner Brothers opted for a convoluted release strategy, limited availability, and no grand premiere. There were reports that the movie will be pushed directly to streaming services. Hollywood erupted instantly. One side claimed that an icon who created masterpieces like Unforgiven was being insulted by this. And Baby Myth Caustic was the other. Warner is merry like canceling a failure. This job is an embarrassment, they fear. On social media, angry remarks proliferated. Some compared the choice to putting the lid on a coffin. The career of Eastwood is in front of him. Others said sourly, Hollywood is ruthlessly reversing its direction. The drama continued. When gossip circulated from within Warner Brothers, when it was revealed that the Second Juror would only have Clint, Eastwood lost his temper at a meeting even after the limited release, threatening to break up. his partnership with Warner Brothers, which he had had for 50 years. However, Warner Brothers upheld its earlier decision in spite of his battle. Though when anonymous critics disclosed that internal test screenings were being used, the drama intensified, had gotten conflicting feedback, with several viewers leaving in the middle of the conversation. The movie is outdated, boring, and a waste of time. Being aware of a box office catastrophe was Warner Brothers purposefully chose a small-scale release to prevent referred to as a box office failure. As one movie blogger put it, if this is it's really a sad farewell for Eastwood. The second Juror scandal appeared to be devastating enough, but it also brought back memories of one of Clint Eastwood's most acrimonious personal scandals, the 14-year turbulent relationship and the contract fraud scheme with Sandra Locock, an actress. In 1970, Eastwood first encountered Sandra Locock while shooting Josie Wales as the Outlaw. They were attracted to one another right away, even despite the fact that they were both married. Latch eventually left Eastwood and her husband while residing with his wife, started working on projects with Latch for more than 14 years. Eastwood and I stayed together in his villa and co-starred in 6 movies. Latch didn't know one thing though. She shared a home with a scammer. Latch, despite having a luxurious lifestyle, she fell prey to her reliance on Eastwood. Her professional life was so closely linked to his that they were nearly inseparable. Additionally, Eastwood was quite a dog. He was unjustly envious all the time and would chastise her if she took on positions he didn't enjoy. Eastwood himself, meanwhile, was not devoted. He had several extramarital affairs at the same time, even having children with while residing with Locock. Other ladies, there were long-standing rumors according to Hollywood. Eastwood regularly had affairs with women in exchange for their assistance in landing their ideal parts. According to tabloids, Eastwood had slept with 10 persons at once, included a well-known journalist and a teenage vocalist. Supposedly, one night, 2 of his Eastwood had to hurry outside when mistresses collided in a hallway before they engaged in combat in front of the hotel, to step in and help. That there was no passion behind these connections. Numerous ex-partners asserted that they were taken advantage of by Eastwood, who need them to enhance his image. According to a supporting actress, he was both sweet and harsh. You were nothing more than a prop when Clint turned his back on you. Eastwood's many affairs were viewed by the worst producers as a free publicity tactic. However, Latch, the lady who remained with him, was the one who suffered the most. The war started to erupt. The affair ended abruptly in 1989. Latch was charged Eastwood of removing the locks from their home and cruelly abandoning her on the street, as she was still attempting to repair the relationship. Things got out of hand when Sandra Locock brought a lawsuit. Latch accused Eastwood of abuse and of committing a complex scam, arranging a production agreement with Warner Brothers. As part of this arrangement, Latch was given the chance to oversee 3 movies. However, not a single project had been approved when she began working. After that, she learned something startling. Warner Bros. Signed the agreement just to please Eastwood, with no plans whatsoever to provide her any chances to make a movie. On the other hand, Eastwood charged Latch with utilizing her cancer diagnosis to coerce and win the jury's sympathy. After years of litigation, the case was resolved for an undisclosed amount. Warner Brothers paid Latch $1.5 million after he won the case, but he had more than 30 proposals. Her pitches were turned down. From a bright young woman, she vanished from Hollywood and led a quiet life till passing away in 2018. Eastwood was recognized as a legend and continued to shine. However, for many, the Locock event will always be a sordid taint. And symbol on the screen decided to destroy a woman who once loved him, both professionally and emotionally. However, why was Eastwood so eager to bind women to him and commit infidelity? Many people conjecture this served only as a diversion to conceal his sexual orientation, that he was gay, although Eastwood was perceived by the public as a tough, ladylike man. Reporters' sources indicated that he regularly went to men-only events in Hills and Hollywood. Eastwood appeared on several occasions, collaborating with well-known gay or bisexual performers of the era, such as Rock Hudson, the movie legend Anthony Perkins. The sensitive performer, well known for his part in The Golden Prince, Psychotab Hunter, won over many females' hearts at once. A debauched party in Malibu, Eastwood was discovered racing while intoxicated. Young actor as Sandra Locock, his former sweetheart, waited still outside Theodore. According to some of Latch's former pals, he was incessantly envious and experienced nightly paranoia which caused him to get exhausted very quickly of females. He even occasionally said that women were merely a sideshow and that true love is only found in males. The turning point was when Latch fell in love. Letters in Eastwood's study that had a strong men's cologne scent. She started sobbing uncontrollably and insisted on a confrontation, but Eastwood merely scoffed. Hollywood is a place devoid of people. In a genuine way, you must adjust to it. According to the media, it was a stain of love, wealth, and power. Even though Clint Eastwood was standing at the peak of grandeur, is nonetheless plagued by the belief that the roughest guy in the connection with Sandra Locock and women were the only things Hollywood ever loved, was really a carefully planned play to hide the lengthy, wild evenings spent with men. Actors A sorrowful chapter was ended by the affair with Sandra Locke, and the public believed that Eastwood's fame was over. However, when one door shut, another one opened, exposing a riskier and more passionate relationship with Jean Sabier, their golden breathless star. Late in the 1960s, actress Jean Subberg was wed to Roman Gary, a writer and diplomat. Clint Eastwood continued to solidify his reputation as the tough cowboy, winning over everyone's heart in Hollywood. Numerous reporters claim that Seberg and Eastwood started a secret because they were unable to resist their attraction to one another. Affair. Gary, a former fighter from World War II, discovered that he had drawn a revolver and went to a Parisian party to look for Eastwood. Among the opulent surroundings and as the jazz music flowed smoothly, Gary abruptly poured a glass of red wine in "You bastard who snatches other men's wives," he growled after Eastwood's face. Known for having a fiery temper, Eastwood refused to back down. The pair of males sprang at one another and panicked. The guests fled. Pale-faced Jean Seberg wept and "Please stop." Gary allegedly took a gun out of his jacket. There was a noticeable sense of anxiety, and people started to lie on the ground and keeping their ears covered. Gary, however, yelled at Eastwood rather than shooting, "Leave my wife alone if you don't want to die." Jean broke down in tears as friends hauled Eastwood away, his clothes ripped and his face bruised. The triangle of love soon fell apart. Proud and conceited, Gary never showed forgiveness. Seberg, meanwhile, was enmeshed in the chaos. One side was a diplomat's responsibility. Spouse. The thirst for freedom was the other. She ultimately decided to distance herself from Gary. In 1970, officially, their marriage was over. According to some, the fatal night left Jean Seberg's soul with an irreparable wound. Additionally, for Eastwood, he turned into one of the most sinister secrets he has never revealed in public. Although Eastwood's romantic life was already complicated, the amount of kids who spent decades in hiding. Eastwood's 6 children have grown to 8, many women, of whom only roughly half have received public recognition. 2 Scott and Catherine, Jaseline Reeves' children, were purportedly born while Eastwood and Sandra Locke continued to reside together. They were identified as fathers. Refused to give their birth certificates names. The even more astounding example of a Lauria daughter. According to numerous accounts, she was born when Eastwood was placed for adoption at a very young age in order to conceal her ancestry. Many people think Eastwood purposefully kept quiet to preserve his flawless reputation and stay out of trouble. However, this very action led to a string of disputes among his family as the illegitimate children and the official children battled ferociously for inheritance and recognition. Writes his daughter Catherine Eastwood and flight attendant Jaseline Reeves worryingly acknowledged in public as an adult. At one point, she created a storm on media by claiming that her stepmother and half-siblings had threatened to file a lawsuit against her or send her to a mental health facility in an effort to get her out of Fine-Inheritance list. Clint Eastwood, who was in his 90s, remained involved in scandals involving love that shocked the public. As soon as Christina Sandera, when his longtime fiancée died, everyone assumed Eastwood would withdraw into sorrow. However, a few months later, the photographer's Viffy that a young woman younger than him was spotted holding his hand by moreover 50 years. The tabloids made news right away. Clint Eastwood went from being a resolute symbol to an outdated joke, an illustration of a 95-year-old man who was infatuated with young women but yearning for love, was made fun of. Fans were half making fun of him and half applauding his remarkable vigor. As a man who is unsure of his stopping point. A few were even coastal. He isn't trying to find a girlfriend. He's searching for his lost youth. There were rumors that Eastwood's relatives, particularly his kids, vehemently objected to the partnership, thinking only his enormous wealth and legacy were sought after by the new woman. Sources revealed that his Carmel villa was the scene of a furious dispute once, where a dad you can no longer tell the difference between real love and exploitation, the daughter cried. In the meantime, there were rumors circulating in Hollywood that Eastwood may give his new partner the majority of his assets. From being the renowned, kind, and resilient elderly man, Eastwood abruptly changed into its representation of age and power's unending tragedy. A man who was well known for his mark of his life, but was eventually influenced by his own womanizing ways to become an endless cycle of rumors, envy, and arguments. Why was this man worshipped though, so pious by Hollywood, even though they have been implicated in numerous scandals? Clint, despite being 90, Eastwood, the Hollywood living legend, is still every time he shows up, the public holds their breath. He is hailed as an eternal emblem, one of the final cornerstones of the golden age of American film. However, this poses an unpleasant query. A man is suspected of being a womanizer, but why? Drawn into contentious legal proceedings, and even engaging in behaviors deemed strange. Is Hollywood still treating the political stage like a saint? The solution is not just found in his cinematic career, but also in the peculiar fusion of screen mythology, the coloration of public memory, and the underlying influence of Hollywood. Eastwood has been defining the ideal American male since the 1960s. He is tall,